All right. So today, what I wanted to talk about is how I think about driving ownership inside of an organization. This is one of those things that actually, when we were starting FERMAT, was one of our three sort of pillars of value. So our three pillars of value, if you're curious, are ask big questions, intellectual honesty, and treat each other like owners. So driving ownership is a big part of how we self-identify. And for those of you out there who identify as high ownership companies, I wanted to share a framework that helps implement high ownership. To me, ownership actually comes from three distinct things. Culture is only one of those three things. The other two are purview and tools. And so culture is the one that most people think about when they think about ownership. So, you can either have a culture which is a high control culture, so things tend to be top down, everything has a process, you need to get approvals, or you can have a high autonomy culture, which is more aligned with an ownership culture, right? And so this one, I think, again, best understood. Purview, I think, is something that people talk about less. And I intentionally use the word purview and not remit, because to me, purview is sort of like what ends up becoming your sphere of things that you end up being able to control, either through influence or remit or a combination. And so I intentionally think about it as like, hey, what is your sphere of influence, which is a combination of just why people trust you and why people may look to you for a certain thing to make a decision on. And then your remit, which is like your formal sort of like scope of ownership of something. And what I wanted to share is that actually you can be high on either one of these. So you can have high influence, low remit, high on both, obviously, is high ownership, and high on remit, low influence still also enables ownership, right? And so companies have different, like, can mod on both axes to drive ownership. You can either enable people by making it a culture where influence is something that is encouraged, or making it a place where you are very clear about who owns what and how, and giving people a lot of ownership directly in their remit. Obviously, the thing that doesn't work is if you don't do either of those things, right? So just again, giving you more tools to think about how you enable ownership. And then the last one is the one that is really under discussed, but it's actually super important because both of this is like, do you have the intent to create ownership? Do you have the like ability to create ownership? And then do you have the execution to drive ownership? And the only way that you can actually execute on a high ownership culture is if people have the tools to actually own the outcome. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. Obviously, at FERMAT, every part of our values actually shows up in our product, right? And the way that we do that at FERMAT is we enable like what I call the difference between a point solution and a platform, where the platform, because it enables you to integrate with your front end, so like your ads manager, your email, your SMS, whatever it may be, and then build a post-click experience that is unique and sort of the ideal experience for that post click or that ideal funnel for that post click. It is a platform that allows people to do that, and therefore it gives you control across the entire thing and allows you to own the outcome from when the customer first clicks all the way through to transaction. And you need to have a tool that allows you to do that, because without us, you would need either to like have your web dev go and make certain changes, and then they start to conflict with other outcomes that your website is responsible for, right? And so you need tools that allow you to play and own the outcome against the thing that you are starting with. So for us, the most common thing is the media buyer can now own the outcome all the way through. Or even actually sometimes the web dev or the website, the ecom person can own the outcome all the way through, because they are no longer having to worry about, hey, what are all the other things that I need this website to accomplish? or what is my development resource scarcity, right? And so we're one of those tools. Another good example for us at FERMAT amongst the tools that we use is things like enabling us to use HubSpot for sort of like as a marketing team. HubSpot as a platform, again, allows us to own the whole thing from when somebody first lands on the page all the way through to the point where they become an opportunity, at which point Salesforce can take over. In our case, Salesforce can take over, right? And so does the tool allow the person to have full ownership is a really important question, and one I think that's under discussed. And again, it's one of the values for the company and one of the values for the product itself. So I hope that that was helpful. I'll see you in the next one.